on the workforce education, the book that just launched and the new roadmap, right? I think based on what I've read about what's in that book, it's a lot about the shifting working class over the last few decades in the US and what's impacted their learning in a way, right? Now, what's happened to the blue collar working environment in the US because of automation and offshoring and all of that, over the last few years, last couple of decades maybe, has permeated into the white collar workforce as well, right? Through same automation, offshoring, but also now with the advent of AI and other evolving technologies, which we all know are affecting how white collar folks view their jobs and all of that. The implication of that for employees is obviously that many of the jobs that they are used to today will possibly not exist in the same form a few years from now. Many of those jobs will not exist at all, right? And therefore, they are in a concern of what to do with their skill and upgrade themselves and all of that. Kind of similar to what the blue collar workforce have been facing over the years, right?
Yep.
So give us a sense of how companies will look at their white collar workforce and are trying to address these challenges. What are your learnings from workforce education, the new book? How would you relate that to the white collar side?
See, there's a lot of research. When my colleague at MIT, David Otter, talks about how when ATMs, right, automatic teller machines appeared, and people thought, oh, bank clerks, right?
Right.
Well, what he argues is what really happened was that clerks started doing higher value added things like loans, right? Selling, CDs, getting you to invest in a CD, things like that.
Right.
Now, MIT just put out a report, Work of the Future. I was a part of that study, and some of the thoughts are also in this book, although that's a much broader study. And what we find is that technology, it hasn't really started replacing jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Technology has started requiring new skills, a different bundle of skills, right? So an AI system doesn't actually offer you a loan. An AI system informs an actuary person, someone in the insurance company,
right,
information that they can use to make a better decision on the loan, if done right.
Sure.
The classical story is that somehow AI is, for example, X-rays or radiography, right? Reading the reports, so you could use AI.
Mm-hmm.
It is to do a good job, but in the end, for a variety of reasons, you still need the human being. So the human being is more effective with these systems, but they also have to exercise judgment. So net, it's an upskilling thing, right? I mean, what we're finding at a high level is that more jobs are being created, right? But there are not people taking the jobs because the gap is not so much one of numbers. The gap is one of a match, and that comes to learning.
Right. Yeah, and that's, I guess, the challenge for enterprises, right? Because they are moving on, and they know that there are new jobs that will be required, but they have a workforce which is outdated, whatever you call it, right, in terms of their skill, and therefore that workforce is scared, and there's a mismatch, and that's where I think from Edge's perspective, Edge Networks' perspective, we help in trying to figure out the employee's current skill set and match it to what is the future skill set requirement and help organizations match that out. So I think that's interesting in the sense that the employee of today is largely bound by what my skill set is, right, today, and afraid of all these reports and things like that are coming out, and AI is going to take my job, robot is going to take my job. I guess from an organization's perspective, it is the organization's responsibility to show them the path. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's let's say that you're a car company, GM, right? Yesterday I saw an ad for GM on electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is GM going to, first of all, it's not going to get out of internal combustion vehicles tomorrow.
Right.
But at the same time, it has to build expertise in electric vehicles. The people who build internal combustion vehicles have a lot of expertise in manufacturing and things that are equally applicable. In fact, Tesla struggled with manufacturing.
Right.
So if I am GM right now, I'm trying to figure out how I can reskill, upskill the workforce, right? Understand that batteries have different safety considerations, different assembly considerations, right? Batteries they carry a lot of energy, so there's arcing, there's some other things, but some of the manufacturing things are the same, the painting is the same, right? And quality control is the same. How do you put it all together? So I think it is a good organization has no choice because of the numbers required, but to build that expertise. And I think learning and teaching is going to be one of the secret sauces.
Sure.
You know, a lot of times I find that people hire people from another company because that other company does better training.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah. And I guess as the future unravels, the training and educating workforce is going to be a differentiator for companies, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to as a new benefit,
Yeah. And I know you mentioned forgetting. How do you relate that to in organizations? We always keep talking about that we have to unlearn things, right? So unlearning is a big expertise, so to speak, that we've grown up with, that to some extent might relate to forgetting, though it's actually not the same thing. Tell us a little bit about God's perspective on that.
Yeah, so that's not, I mean, that is forgetting, but it's a different type.
Yeah.
It's sort of, you can take advantage of forgetting, I guess, but we are creatures of habit, and sometimes we have habits that are outdated or wrong, bad habits, and it's very hard to get out of them, right? So, so I was talking to a coach, and what he said is, when I get a young player, if they play tennis and they have the wrong stroke, right? The first thing I've got to do is get them to forget that, right? And relearn a new stroke.
Right.
And in fact, one of our classmates, Gaurav, right? That he was a very good badminton player, and he would play without a racket for some time. The coach would play without a racket just to get his motions right.
Right.
So I think this business of unlearning is very fundamental now. One example of that is how to be agile in a software development environment where everything was waterfall.
Yeah. Right. That's a big shift. Yeah, that's a big shift.
It's a big shift. So that is So that takes sort of corporate discipline. It takes reinforcement. It takes practice. It takes leadership, and takes reminders. It takes incentives, etc. And it's a very difficult thing, but companies that are able to pivot and stay relevant today absolutely do that. Not easy, but it has to be done.
Yeah.